This is that Seth Thomas that I'm going to work on next for you, Richard. Been ticking away quite nicely for the last half hour while I've been doing some research on it. I think the model is an Empire number 300, made between 1910 and 1915. Gonna, as I say, it's been ticking away, but the next, you'll be used to this now after the first clock, but the next few photos and videos will show you the work carried out to it and what I find and any other points of interest. That's the gong removed. I'm going to try and remove the movement with those, see that screw in the distance there? There's another one over there. I'm going to try and remove the movement that way so that I don't have to take the case apart, because that would be a far bigger job. Well, that didn't work, Richard. I don't know if you can see that at the top. It's held into the top of the case by that screw down there. So I am going to have to take it apart. Even when I do, I'm not quite so sure how to get to that screw. There's got to be a way, but unfortunately the case is going to come apart. So the next couple of, well, it's got to be more than two, I think. The next few photos will show you that being done. Just making a note of these tiny little brass shims here, which I don't want to lose. Looking round it, it's just on the side panels, top and bottom. I've just got to remember to put them back to help stop, obviously, the glass chipping. Early days, Richard, but can you see how those barrel cases are rubbing against the front plate? Certainly not going to help in the running of the movement. Not sure why they're like that. Obviously I'm not going to know until I strip it, but that has got to be part of the problem. Three of these little nuts around the movement, I've undone all three, and I'm hoping I can lift the movement out. If not, I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board again. Yes, get in, it's out. So I didn't have to take the pillars off, that was about it. But anyway, now we're going to strip this movement. Ignore what I said earlier about these shells touching the front of the movement. They're actually screwed to it, so that is not the problem. What I have noticed though is that the spring on the strike side has snapped, or is at least slipping, which could be causing a major problem, obviously. But I will start the strip. I'm going to, at first, obviously take the tension out of the springs, and then we'll begin. Fortunately, by the looks of it, I've not worked on this movement before, but by the looks of it, I can actually take the springs out, which I'll do first without stripping the movement. Most, not all movements, but most movements, you finish the strip from the back plate. This one we're going to have to start the strip from the back plate and finish it from the front. So the following few photos will show you this being done. flip the movement over to strip it from the front. Most of what follows, normally I do a bit of chit chat, but most of what is going to follow is going to be photographs. I haven't worked on this movement before, and I'll probably need the photographs for reference later. Well, as I'm stripping the movement, I don't know if you can see that there. Where's my finger? These here. A really poor attempt at a bush, to be honest with you, which just fell out. See that hole there? Where it's wobbling everywhere. The thing is, for that size pivot, I'm going to have to make a bush because the actual hole in the plate is ginormous. You know, a bush for a pivot that size would normally be, ooh, I would say 2 mil, and that must be closer to 4. Oh, great. Just backtracking on that last video a second ago, the larger piece, that one, is actually a spacer that fits on there. Glad I spotted that. The other is a bush. Put that down there. That is a bush. If it is that size, hopefully I can either make one or I might be able to find one that'll suit. That's the final plate off. The following few photos will show you the movement being stripped completely. I must be honest, it's quite complicated for a small little movement, and with it being something I've not worked on before, it's been a bit of a challenge, but as you know, Richard, I like to polish all the wheel pivots in my lathe. The lathe, your wheels. Because I've done it before, all I'll do now is just show you, take some photographs and show them to you in like a slideshow for you to see them being done. Such unusual springs these. I've done a bit of research and they're called box springs. These cups are bolted to the plate, the clock plate, and the only way that I can find to get these springs out is to actually do it by hand. Getting them out isn't so difficult, it's putting them back in that's going to be the worry. Here we go. Well, that was a tricky job. I'd like to replace both of these springs. I'm going to give you a call. This one here has had a bit of work done to it. Can't really see it very well, but it's not a very good job. I think this one might be newer, and I don't know, but I'm going to give you a call, Richard, to see if I can replace both of them. Okay, the pivots have been polished, done that. I've checked the plates for wear, and as you can see by my markings here, they are quite badly worn. This plate requires 4 repairs, and this plate requires 5, as you can see. Now, I think I mentioned in the last video on the clock that I did for you how I do these bushes. The bushes are, here we go, are pre-made. Okay, I've got a full set of them there. And what the markings are here is the bush number. So that one there in the middle is bush 11. The ID is 0.95 milli. The OD of the bush will be 3 milli. That ID is the size of the pivot that fits in that hole. The way I do these is I open them up by hand to suit the bush that locates in the hole. I then press the bush in, and then I open up the hole. I've actually got a bush here, actually, I'll just show you. This is bush 11. I just tried it. 1 second, there we go. That's not very clear, is it? Can we zoom in on that? Oh, forget that. Oh, nearly had it, but that's the bush. There we go. Little hole in the middle. I then polish out that hole to suit the wheel pivot that locates at that particular point in the plates. There'll be a few photos to follow showing you each one of these being done. I'm going to do photos, not videos, so let me see, probably about 20 photos to come. This hole there, the big one, is where the bush fell out when I was stripping the movement. A bush that had been in there before. I've just checked my bushes, and thankfully I think it'll fit in okay. So I've not opened this hole up myself. It was already there. Well, I've got the bush in, but unfortunately it was a little loose, so I've just had to put little centre pots around it, which will hopefully hold it in place. As I polish it out now, I'll know whether that will work or not. Opening up this one hole and that above there fell out, so it's had an old bush in it before. I'm hoping this bush will fit in without me having to stake it like I did that one. Thankfully it went in great, so I'm just going to polish this one out now. Okay, all the repairs have been done, pivots polished. Next job, oh, and the new springs have been ordered. The next job is to clean and polish all these parts. I'm going to protect the plates as well after polishing them to help stop them tarnishing in the future. The next photo you see will be hopefully when it's all done. Finally, everything's done. They're the new mainsprings that have arrived. Everything's been cleaned and polished. All the repairs are done. I'm going to put it all back together now. I think I mentioned earlier about these springs that I'm going to put them in by hand. I don't know how I'm going to do that yet, so I'm not going to be able to photo and video it. Hopefully get a big cheer later on when I finally figure it out. Took me a while, managed to get one in, one to go. Really pleased to say that I managed to get the springs into the barrels. The next few photos will show you me putting the movement back together. Couple of weeks of testing ahead just to make sure everything's okay. Probably more than a couple. I always say a couple, normally more. What I'm going to do now, Richard, is just tidy the brass and the glass up a little bit. When I box it back together, it'll look a little bit tidy. You've asked me not to go too much overboard, so what I'll do is once I've done this and I've got the movement back in, I'll take a few photos. Hopefully be able to see a bit of, I don't know, before and after. Okay, Richard, spent a couple of hours going over the case and giving the case a bit of a clean. I've not gone over the top. Quite frankly, it would probably take most of a day to get the smaller stuff absolutely spot on. The next few photos now will show you it all being put back together.